In Venezuela, the president Nicolás Maduro led the Great National March for Peace and in support of his popular victory in the presidential elections of July 28th. In Russia, authorities have reported a new drone attack by Ukrainian troops on the outskirts of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. And the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas accused Israel of frustrating negotiations for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Beren de los Santos. I'm from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, the President Nicolás Maduro led the Great National March for Peace and in support of his popular victory in the presidential elections of July 28th. In the midst of the great concentration on the way to the Miraflores Palace, the Venezuelan people raised slogans and received the president who was present to accompany the people together with the First Lady, Cilia Flores. During his address to the people, President Maduro highlighted that the presence of the people in the streets is yet another victory after the electoral one, and that it also represents a win in the face of social media influencers and the opposition leaders. Also, the president reiterated that the call for communal elections on August 25th as a new instance of democratic participation for all Venezuelans.
As they have no leaders and they hid, one lives in Madrid, in a mansion, in the Salamanca neighborhood. The thieving and murderous rat of Leopoldo Lopez, the rat of Guaido, lives in a mansion in Miami. Julio Borges in Spain. They have the Sayona, who is deflated and spiked. She is spiked, and that makes her more dangerous because she has a criminal and violent mind. But they are not going to be able to beat us. They are not going to be able to. So they looked for 20 influencers. One has 80 million followers. The other one has 60, it cannot be. But you know what those influencers lack? Street, they lack people. They lack dreams, they lack the Venezuelan national cause.
In this context, the population mobilized in defense of the electoral victory of President Nicolás Maduro and in rejection of fascism and the ultra-right. The rally traveled through several avenues of the city of Caracas until it reached the Miraflores Palace, seat of the national government, and the destination of more than 10,000 motorcycles that accompanied the march in defense of peace and the electoral victory. Simultaneously, citizens throughout the national territory took to the streets in defense of national sovereignty. And in this context, the people of Apure state in Venezuela also marched to defend peace and celebrate the victory of President Nicolás Maduro. Let's listen.
The women's sector is mobilizing against the fascism that is in the blockade, the violence. This is a country of peace, and here democracy won, Nicolás Maduro won, and from here we are supporting him. From here we are backing him and guaranteeing peace and sovereignty. In Venezuela, this is a territory of peace.
Here we are, the doctors of the homeland, the revolution of health with Nicolás Maduro. We do not want fascists. The oil of Venezuela belongs to the people and for the people, for Latin America. Keep it up, President, overcoming President.
Meanwhile, in Colombia, social organizations stood in solidarity with Venezuela due to the events that threaten peace in the South American country. The movement in solidarity with Venezuela expressed its concern for the current situation in the country. The General Consul of Venezuela in Barranquilla, Juan Ferrer Romero, pointed out that the Venezuelan extreme right wing does not express the truth of the facts. They only incite acts of violence for an alleged fraud of which they have no proof. Ferrer also assured that the extremist groups would not be able to destabilize a people that work in the defense of their sovereignty.
On July 28, The Venezuelan people reaffirmed their course by electing Nicolas Maduro as their president once again, and the people of the world are with the Bolivarian Revolution.
For 25 years, the Bolivarian Revolution has been a beacon of hope, a popular movement that has resisted with courage and dignity the onslaught of U.S. imperialism and its allies.
And also on Saturday, the extreme right also called for its supporters in Caracas. The concentration that spread by a few blocks covered only sectors of the east of the Venezuelan capital. Aerial shots showed the dimension of the mobilization of the extreme right at the moment when the opposition, Maria Corina Machado, addressed her followers, a rally in which former presidential candidate Edmundo González did not participate and whose objective was to reject the country's electoral power and the official results of the last presidential elections. And now let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Russia, authorities have reported a new drone attack by Ukrainian troops on the outskirts of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. According to the authorities of the plant, the attack was launched by the Ukrainian army around 7 in the morning local time this Saturday on the road that passes next to the reactors of the plant, which represented a threat to security. This is the route through which the staff moves constantly. However, the attack left no dead or wounded. The latest incident against the nuclear power plant located in the eastern zone took place on August 11th when Ukrainian forces attacked a cooling tower with 2 drones, causing a fire. Earlier, the Russian government had warned that it would give a tough response if Ukraine carried out any nuclear provocation. Through a statement, the Russian Defense Ministry reported that it was evaluating information released by independent channels on the preparation by the Ukrainian regime to attack the nuclear power plants of Kursk and Zaporizhia. They also denounced that the objective of this provocation was to accuse Moscow of self-attack on its plan in order to allegedly create reasons for attacking nuclear facilities in Ukraine. The security agency condemned these plans and stated that they constitute a direct violation of the International Convention on Combating Acts of Nuclear Terrorism. And also in this context, Russian Defense Ministry reported on massive surrender of the Ukrainian military in Kursk province after operations were thwarted by Moscow. According to a spokesman for the Russian security agency, several Ukrainian settlements in Kursk have been evicted since August 15th. The Ministry of Defense also reported that Russian forces continue to conduct military operations in the area with a view to advancing the recovery of the region and taking prisoners. The Ukrainian army launched a surprise offensive against the Kursk region on August 6th, killing at least 12 civilians and wounding more than 120 people, including 10 children. And now we move on to Palestine, as resistance movement Hamas accused Israel of frustrating negotiations for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Hamas political bureau member Ghazi Hamad stated that despite the efforts of the mediators, conciliation was not achieved on any point of the proposal. He also explained that the resistance will not accept any agreement without a full ceasefire, withdrawal of occupation from Gaza, the return of displaced people, and an agreement on prisoner exchanges. Hamad believes that even if new conditions are established, Tel Aviv would continue its siege against Palestine. And in the meantime, massacres by genocidal Israeli troops continue in the Gaza Strip. At least 15 people were killed in the Suwaida refugee camp. The Zionist troops bombed tents full of people, most of them hungry and thirsty women and children. The Israeli fighter planes launched 3 attacks in the surrounding of the camp, where the Palestinians that they themselves displaced there with the promise that this was a safe area were taking refuge. These attacks in the center of Gaza, in addition to new orders for massive evacuations in the north and south of the Palestinian settlement, are taking place while the international community is concentrating its hopes on a ceasefire. And also, recent reports revealed that Israeli settlers and military have set at least 273 fires on Palestinian property in the occupied West Bank since October 2023. The resistance committee to the wall and settlements issued a statement in which it detailed that since the outbreak of the new cycle of violence on last October 7th, some 120 fires were caused in the governorate of Nablus, 42 in Ramallah, and 26 in Yenin. Of the total, 77 affected land and crops, while 196 burned public or private property, including apartments, buildings, and vehicles. The committee denounced that the Israeli occupation authorities sponsored these actions with the aim of terrorizing and intimidating the population in order to cause forced displacement. And in other news, in India, the Medical Association suspended non-urgent service for 24 hours this Saturday in protest of the rape and murder of a young woman, resident of the hospital in the city of Calcutta. The medical body indicated that essential services and the operation of emergency rooms will be maintained, but there will be no service in ambulatory patient departments nor elective surgeries. These actions of protest are added to others at national level in support of the professionals of the Calcutta hospital who remain mobilized since October 9th after the rape and murder of a young resident. Mobilized doctors demand rigorous sentences for this matter, of which only one accused is known, as well as a greater security in health facilities. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English, and there you will be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. The African Union Health Agency reported a detection of more than 18,000 cases of Mpox in the year 2024. The health agency detailed that so far there are 3,101 confirmed cases, another 15,636 expected, and 541 deaths in at least 12 countries because of the virus known as mono smallpox. In response, the World Health Organization declared an emergency due to rapid spread, with the first cases of this new variant of Mpox appearing in Sweden and Pakistan. In this case, they urged the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control to prepare for the emergence of more cases. And also in this context, the Ministry of Health of Peru issued an epidemiological alert in the South American country for 77 cases of Mpox confirmed by the National Center of Epidemiology, Prevention and Control of Diseases. The alert is issued to warn citizens of the risk that this new variant of the monkeypox presents. Official data recorded that during 2022 there were at least 3,697 cases. We now move on to other topics. In Colombia, delegates from the 9 countries that make up the indigenous peoples of the Amazon basin met in the capital to establish criteria and commitments to protect biodiversity in their territories and communities in preparation for the UN Climate Change Conference to be held in Cali. Our correspondent Hernán Tobar has the details. Let's see.
En la capital colombiana, los pueblos indígenas pertenecientes.
In the Colombian capital, the indigenous people belonging to the Amazon basin held the first international meeting of native people on the road to CBD. 9 delegates from the countries that make up this region and the representative from Colombia, Brazil, Ecuador, Bolivia, Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, and Peru, as well as state entities from the host country, were present.
Igual que entidades estatales del país anfitrión.
Nosotros hablamos de ampliación de resguardos.
We talk about the expansion of indigenous reserves, that legal security to maintain the balance of nature. There are some very important issues of direct funding for indigenous people who care for and protect the territory to be able to talk about biodiversity at the national, international, and global level. There are some bets that's going to order to protect the territory, protect the environment, and protect biodiversity.
El territorio, proteger el medio ambiente, proteger la biodiversidad.
Los pueblos indígenas son clave para la protección.
Native people are key to the protection of biodiversity and the fight to combat climate change and preserve the ecological balance in the planet. The Amazon basin alone is home to more than 500 indigenous people who are in permanent struggle for the preservation of the so-called lungs of the world, which is why it is necessary for them to be heard and participate in social, ecological, and climate policies.
Políticas sociales, ecológicas y climáticas.
Nosotros, tanto de los pueblos, mi pueblo y otros pueblos de Amazon.
For us, my people and other peoples of the Amazon, we are aware of our contributions, but many times the states and the governments do not recognize these types of contributions, that for millennia, with our knowledge, our connectivity with Mother Earth, with nature, we have contributed, and that is one of the strong demands of these great dialogues at the global level. But we must never lose sight of the right to life, human rights. The rights of indigenous people are not negotiable.
El derecho a la vida, los derechos humanos, los derechos de los pueblos indígenas, que no es negociable.
Espacios como estos
Spaces such as these serve to promote environmental protection policies. They also serve to reflect on the conditions of indigenous people, historical victims of violence and colonialism.
Todavía el colonialismo existe, pero
Colonialism still exists, but in another form. It is now the transnational companies that have many important resources and are installed in a territory from one day to another and already have the legal security that the peoples have been demanding for more than 20 years. A situation so complicated and difficult, but also we indigenous people have always said we are not against the development of private companies, as long as they respect the collective rights of indigenous people.
respeten los derechos colectivos que tienen los pueblos indígenas.
representantes de los pueblos indígenas de la
Representative of the native people of the Amazon basin signed an agreement that will be taken to the largest biodiversity conference, CBD COP16, to be held next October in Colombia, bringing their proposals for the protection and defense of the biodiverse territories and lungs of the world.
Hernán Darío Tobar Gaitán, TeleSUR, Bogotá, Colombia.
And in other news, Hong Kong celebrated the birth of its first giant panda twins on August 15th, delivered by Ying Ying, who became the oldest panda to give birth for the first time at nearly 19 years old. The cubs, a male and a female, were born after a 5-month pregnancy, with the female weighing 122 grams and the male 112 grams. This event is significant as giant pandas are notoriously difficult to breed, and Ying Ying had previously struggled with pregnancy. The twins are currently receiving round-the-clock care due to their delicate condition. Hong Kong's chief executive John Lee remarked on the special occasion coinciding with the 75th anniversary of the People's Republic of China. Another pair of pandas is expected to arrive in Hong Kong next month. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.